Dear colleagues, Svetlana Bagitovna, it is a great pleasure for me to take part in this conference. Of course, just like many other participants, I prefer to attend a conventional forum for all of us to be able to communicate with each other both formally and informally. I would like to begin my report that is called What Have We Learned About Education in the Post-Pandemic World? First of all, I need to admit the fact that the pandemic is not over and our understanding is still developing. Also, the situation itself and this semi-online or distant or remote conference forced us understand the importance of a spontaneous communication. The problem of remote communication is that it requires special schedules, it takes means, and the possibility of having some impromptu communication or some informal conversation between different groups of people that decided to come to an agreement on something, or just to have a good laugh or express some empathy. These capabilities, these opportunities are disappearing.
Вот климат формируется в значительной степени за счет общения. Мы это поняли сейчас очень серьезно. И этого нет в моей презентации, поэтому я решил об этом сказать в начале. Ну, все-таки перейдем к разговору. Вы знаете, великий русский поэт Федор Иванович Тютчев говорил: «Блажен, кто посетил сей мир в его минуты роковые». Конечно, трудно жить во времена потрясений, но для ученых это очень интересный момент. Вот не случайно здесь у меня на слайде картинка вулкана. Когда есть такая порода ученых, вулканологи, да, они изучают вулкан, пока он не взорвался, не начал извергаться. Могут это делать в своих кабинетах. А когда он начал извергаться, надо ехать и смотреть. Так вот, когда в марте 2020 года начался переход в России на, как мы говорим, на вынужденное удаленное обучение, то наш институт, довольно большой исследовательский институт, фактически остановил все остальные.
Our quite big research institute practically stopped all of the research activities, and we started looking at what was happening in the education system. This slide shows how many students and teachers we have surveyed, how many university faculties, the survey of families, and we continue this work. We continue publishing articles. We are conducting several waves of our surveys. For instance, at Russian universities, we have conducted 3 surveys in March, June in 2020, and June 2021. And we see very interesting trends. But I will talk about our several observations and findings that are related to school education. I must say that the scale of the change that have taken place is really difficult, hard to grasp. When we have seen the last figure on the slide, 2.7 million lessons a day. Just imagine. Until a certain moment, They have been conducted the way they have been conducted for like thousands of years before. But literally overnight, each of that 2.7 million lessons had to be taught in a different way, which is a huge challenge for the educational system. So, what we understood that the major hero in all of the situation, with all due respect towards the teachers and principals, so it was most challenging, first of all, for the family. The class actually traveled to people's homes, to a rural house, to a city plan. And we have seen that the school is a great equalizer. Children come to school from a variety of families. They have had different breakfasts. And as Svetlana Bagitovna rightly mentioned, they have been said goodbye to in different ways. Different families see their children off in different ways, but they came and they sat at the same desks. They had more or less the same textbooks and notebooks, the same text that was projected for them on the screen. But now it turns out that all children work in very diverse conditions. They have to study in very diverse home environments. And the family had to take this important function to organize the children's activities, the children's learning, because at school you have the signals when the classes start and end. There is a school team that is propelling the child, that is making the child move forward together, progress together in a class. But here, each family had to work individually with the child. And dear colleagues, I think I will continue the thoughts and ideas of Svetlana Bagitovna. The schools face the challenge of building the interaction with families. The parents have become TAs. And it's a concerning fact for us that 1/3 of the parents have evaluated the school engagement during the remote learning, scoring 1 out of 10. They were not satisfied with the information that they received. They have requested help and they actually proposed help. But the requests were not met. And it turns out that half of the children of elementary school children and 1/3 of the high school children required some help on content, some substantial help, not only the learning arrangement support. So almost every child was assisted by parents. And for that, for us, that was a very important lesson to be learned. We understood that even we come back fully to the conventional type of education, we must still remember that family is an important resource of academic achievement. We must understand how to help the parents, how to engage with them. We know that the families are diverse, and it's hard to be acting in such a way that one size fits all. We have seen, for instance, a significant group of parents, 1/3 of parents, that take whatever novelties there are strictly negatively, whether it's remote education or hybrid education. But we are saying that hybrid education is our future, and the parents are our target audience. The children are already digital aborigines. The other group of parents have adapted to the new type of education, but they are hoping for continuation and they value it. And 20% even see this as a convenient way to get their education. So hybrid education gives more opportunities to children. This is something that we believe in. Therefore, we need to increase this third group. Another important thing that we understand now is that the most important requirement or technology that we are implementing is a very trivial finding, but we think it is important. The most important factor, the most important criterion for choosing technology is that they must fit everyone. They must be simple to use, they must be comfortable. We may find a very efficient, a really beautiful technology, but if the entry threshold to that technology is quite high, such technology will not enter school. It is really sad that three-fourths of pedagogues, at least in Russia, but we have worked with the Western Europe colleagues too, and we understand that the figures are similar. So they stated that technology that we provided them for online communications were not convenient. And in reality, they actually increased the volume of work that they had to do. As a university lecturer, I worked remotely too. And I am among the 40% of the faculty that, as a result of the first year of remote education, were more exhausted, who acknowledge that the volume of work has increased. We think that digital technology makes our life easier, but my major finding is that they provide better productivity, but not in a more facilitated way. This is something to be understood in planning the school time, in allocating resources. We need to learn from tech companies to be client centered. When they are innovating something, they are first piloting that on a small group of consumers. They have this user experience term, UX. How often do we survey our faculty, our students, whether it's convenient for them to study? Unfortunately, not that often. Another thing that's especially challenging for universities, well, I may have put it really harshly, but our investments into digital infrastructure have been reduced to almost nothing. A lot has been invested in demonstration IT materials. Especially popular were and still remain are the interactive whiteboards. And we invested almost next to nothing to information services, convenient systems of arranging our activities. At many schools in Russia, in Kazakhstan, and abroad, there are systems of educational activities arrangements. But when we ask the teacher whether you use them, they say we work with a notebook and a pen. And then we introduce data into the system. Then the system is just not required. Therefore, we think that the future is, of course, is when we see that the teachers and students come with their own devices. And we must invest into modern content and communication channels. The finding is quite trivial, but still we have it. One of the major challenges in this forced remote transition was the low level of digital skills among both teachers and students. Let me give you just a simple example. When the transition to remote education opened opportunities for almost limitless use of resources, it turned out that a big share of our students have not mastered the ways of efficient search on the internet. At our Digital Skills Center, there was an easy task in our test. What kind of keywords you're supposed to use to enter into the browser line to get an answer to a specific question. So if I'm not mistaken, 3/4 of the students have been inefficient in that. Only a quarter of the students were relatively efficient. In this slide, dear colleagues, we have this real picture from Russia illustrating how children come out to the communications pole, the pole with a Wi-Fi router, because they have no internet connection at home and they come here to download their tasks and to send them back. No new discoveries are shown here. The inequality, the digital divide has become more obvious. And I have mentioned already that school is a great equalizer. Svetlana Bakitovna told about that too, about the losses in education during the pandemic. Those losses are significantly higher in the families who have enjoyed less family support, where the parents were too busy, there was no good working environment. The issue of supporting children from disadvantaged families in acquiring resources and methodological support is very acute today during this digital transition. 2 more minutes from my side. For those who would like to dive into the details, the presentation will be available for you. We have very interesting data. We have compared the responses of the parents who have degrees and who have no degrees. And we see that if a mother has no degree, in the quarter of the cases, there were no skills to use online services. If the mothers had degrees, those were 15%, not a quarter. So in all the situations when the parents have no university degrees, the children would have less chances to enjoy support inside their homes. This is a very important factor that we think must be considered. I have said that there must be a social environment for communication. Schools and universities are not only about lessons and courses. Education is a well-structured and planned process. A well-structured lesson is really critical. But Svetlana Bakitovna talked about the environment, about the climate. But this is something that is being built by communications. We saw how important that is. And we saw how lucky we are, because this is something that is weaved, that is being kind of created out of nowhere. It's just a school where normal people come in and they start speaking, they start communicating, but whether we actually steer this process, can we take a good technological approach to that? Well, I have big questions about that. So what I must say, and what's concerning us, is the data of the university student service. Unfortunately, we don't have the overtime dynamics for school children, but you can see that the green lines are longer than the blue ones. This is the share of students that have faced certain difficulties, including mental difficulties in education. During our next waves of surveys, the share was growing. We see a concerning trend of mental well-being of children among the university students. So at the universities where we have just finished our survey, 70% show certain mental, psychological challenges during remote studies, and 20% show clinical symptoms of depression. Inside our post-social communities, there is no common practice of speaking openly about that. It's not only school counselors, psychologists parents and teachers must take it more and more seriously. I will skip a couple of slides as I'm wrapping up. The most important thing that we have noted for ourselves is the autonomous learning ability. I won't elaborate too much on that, but teachers know that it's easier to teach those who learn themselves, who work independently at home. But how do we achieve this autonomous growth? We pedagogues are thriving on independence. If there is no independence, no autonomous learning, we can complain to parents. But do we have any proper pedagogical techniques to help the children in becoming more autonomous, better self-organized, better planners? Unfortunately, our analysis shows that the majority of pedagogues and the majority of parents, by the way, think autonomous working is something that is naturally born in a child. But if we think this way, this is a bad story for us. Independence is something that we must foster. Wrapping up, dear colleagues, I want to say that it's not only challenges that the pandemic has revealed. The lessons are not only in challenges. We have new opportunities. First of all, the distance is no barrier. You know that one of the regions where we have conducted a lot of empirical studies is Yakutia in the north of Russian Federation. Due to low temperatures, up to 2 months of academic year, children just do not go to school due to the weather.
Children who skip classes due to their health condition can actually join classes. And as we see, there is a great number of students that say now, can we go to school twice a week or and work remotely for the rest 3 days of the week because they spent a lot of time on the commute. And we came to understand that there is an access to unlimited content, and a lot of teachers and parents could see that as well. And finally, despite the fact that some communication opportunities go down, there are other opportunities coming up. And we are now in touch with those people who would be able to come visit us in person and have some coffee with us, and who could not participate in these types of conversations. That is why there are some positive and negative lessons learned. Unfortunately, we will have more of them because the pandemic is ongoing, and we are ready to cooperate with Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools in terms of such an analysis.